Hello. I know that it's been a while. It's been a few months since I last posted a video to my channel. Whoever, all of you out there who are subscribed, I apologize if I've kept you waiting. And this year, it's something a little different than the other videos I've posted so far. It's pretty much just a casual impressions kind of thing. I don't have a script here. I'm going completely off the cuff. But I am currently working on a full edited scripted video that it's been in the works for a while. And it will be finished by the end of the year. I can promise that much. Um, I had a lot of free time over the summer, but ever since school started back up again, I've had to focus on that. So while I have been working on this video, I just haven't been able to, dedicate as much time to it compared to the other three that I've made so far. But it is still coming, and now that I'm on break, I do plan on making at least another two or three videos that are, fully edited and scripted and all that. But in the meantime, I thought that, just to give, whoever subscribed, just to give you guys something to tide you over, I would throw up this video here, and it's just gonna be a casual impressions of what of two things that have recently premiered on streaming services. The first one I'm going to talk about is the new Adventure Time Distant Land special. So I did a full review for BMO, the first special, a few months ago, and I really enjoyed it. I didn't think it was anything like, spectacular. I mean, I thought visually it was the best the show ever looked, but I just thought, that special was like, it was a fun return to the world of Adventure Time. And, it was good to see Bima put in the spotlight and him be a really good protagonist for the first time because, many fans of the show kind of agree that, we all like Bimo, but usually when he's the main focus, the episodes can be pretty boring, to be honest. But this was definitely different here because he had a companion to kind of play off of. But the thing about the BMO special was that it took place before the show. It took place long before BMO even met Finn and Jake because we see at the end he crashes onto Earth, or at least we think it's Earth, and he sees Finn and Jake as kids, and he goes over to them. So this special, Obsidian, was the first to actually be an epilogue to the finale that aired 2 years ago. This is our first look at a post-series finale world in Adventure Time. It isn't specified exactly how long after the finale it is. And also, before I go any further with this, I am gonna be spoiling. I am gonna be spoiling this, so if you haven't watched it yet and you plan to, don't watch this until you've watched the special, because I am gonna be spoiling everything that happens, because that's just I don't when it comes to reviews in general for me, because I am going to do more reviews in the future. I'm probably just gonna spoil whatever because I just don't really want to restrict what I talk about. So that's just something in the future. But anyway, when it comes to this is the first time we've actually seen the world after the finale took place. So the focus of this special was Marceline and Princess Bubblegum and their romantic relationship. And, throughout the show, it was hinted that they had been a couple sometime before the event of the show in the episode What Was Missing. It wasn't made super clear back then because back then, same-sex couples still weren't quite okay yet in kid shows. They are now, and that's really great to see how far we've come. But as the series progressed, it became more clear that yes, they weren't just friends; they were a couple, and they had some kind of falling out. And then in the finale, they finally get back together, and we see them kiss. So fast forward to now, they're basically living like your typical modern young couple's life. They're just living together and just kind of relaxing with each other. I do wonder, like, it seems like PB is living in Marceline's house the whole time. So is anyone living in the Candy Kingdom castle? Is PB even still the ruler of the Candy Kingdom? I would imagine she is. I would not imagine she would want to stop being princess, because knowing her, she always likes to be in control. But this special, it finally kind of dives deep into the history between their relationship, why exactly they had a falling out, and just more often, just more than ever shows how these two characters have grown. Because this special reveals it shows to us how much Marceline has changed compared to the beginning of the show, because she realized that she's not the same you know punk rock angry young kid full of angst that she was back when they were originally a couple. But she realizes that that's okay, that she doesn't really need to be that anymore. um and she, because earlier on, she thinks that she has to kind of tap back into that red hot teen angst that she was in the midst of when she and PB were originally together. But she has to learn to really, she realizes that she's grown up and she has to embrace that. And at the end of the day, she ends up defeating this conflict with a new song, not of rage but of love. And it's a little sappy, but it works because these are two characters that, like, a lot of people might give certain shows a hard time because they're like, oh, these two characters really shouldn't be together. This wasn't built up to properly, especially when it comes to like same-sex couples. People love to say, oh, the producers are just trying to be woke, and these two characters really aren't meant to be together, but they just want to get social justice brownie points. Or, I mean, I think that's a load of bullcrap. But in the case of this is a relationship that has been built up throughout the entire show. You can see why these two are together, why they had a falling out, and now why they're back together, because they kind of complete parts of each other. Phoebe can be very uptight and very much a control freak, and she always wants to kind of prove her competence and genius to those around her. And Marceline, she was originally very rebellious, and she had trouble sharing. She basically had trouble expressing herself. That's what it came down to. And that connects to the other main, and the other main thing we see in this special. We finally get something that I was really hoping would happen, into that we finally get more of Marcy's backstory with her mother. Because back in the original show, we had the 8-part special Stakes, which revealed that yes, Marceline did have a mom, a human mom, and we never knew what happened to her. Now, we still don't know how she ended up having a child with a demon. That's never explained. Maybe, I mean, that's never explained, how she and Hunson Aventir had a demon child together. Maybe, who knows? Maybe Marceline's father was originally human, then got mutated during the war, and then he became ruler of the Nightosphere. But and just kind of abandoned, her mother. Or maybe, I don't know, or maybe he was always a demon, and they somehow had a one night stand or something like that. I really don't know. It's something that I do wish we got an explanation for, but at the very least we got an explanation for what happened to Marceline's mother. And it was safe to assume that she was no longer alive, but now we also see just how her death contributed to Marcy's problem. How in the moment it seemed like what she did was the right thing to do, because they were kind of like living together in the post-apocalyptic ruins of Earth. It's really funny. I mean, it's not funny. It's really, it was a really great twist to see that, in that initial flashback back in Stakes, they were together, and it seemed like they were just together in a house, and just, and they were just living like a peaceful life. But now we see, oh no, that was not the case at all. They were taking shelter in some destroyed bus in the middle of just a bunch of ruins, and Marceline's mother was basically slowly dying from what I assume was radiation poisoning, or maybe just starvation, because we see throughout these flashbacks that her mother is not well. She's coughing up blood, and she decides that she has the dilemma of, what does she want to do? Does she want to let her child watch her die, or does she want to send her child away and make her think that she abandoned her? And maybe in the moment the latter option, which she went with, was the correct one, but in the long run, it kind of, as Marceline points out towards the end, it kind of really damaged the way that she it damaged her ability to really express herself for a long time, because her mother was just kind of like hiding things from her, and making her think saying things like, "Oh, we're going to a secret clubhouse, and I need you to draw this fun picture." But in reality, she was making Marceline draw a map, which she would follow to go to this hideout place. And she was like, "Oh, I'll meet you there soon," but she obviously never does. And she leaves Marceline this message, which she ends up never actually hearing until she returns to that place much later. And it's one of the biggest gut punches of the show. I mean, Adventure Time it's always had just incredible lore, incredible characters. And Marceline has always been a fan favorite. She's definitely one of my favorites. Because she's more than just your typical punk rock teen. She obviously has a lot of layers here, as we see very clearly in this special. That we finally get a full idea of who she is and where she came from and why she is how she is. Because and her problem was that when she was with PB, eventually, when she was with PB, her issue was that she couldn't express herself, and she felt the need to kind of always have her guard up, and that's what led to their relationship, ending. And on PB's side, we see how throughout the series she has trust issues. She always wants to kind of control things that she really has no place to control. We saw that with Flame Princess, how she tried to keep her locked away. She tried to take it upon herself to destroy like her kingdom's defense weapons, because she thought that she couldn't be trusted with them. That's just one example. And PB learns to kind of trust people more as the show goes on, and we see that that's kind of Marceline's role in their relationship, and why they kind of work so well together, because they kind of fill in each other's gaps. So yeah, so the special just gives us a really, really great full arc for these characters. One of the best moments was the very, very end, where we see where PB got the t-shirt that she was so attached to in the episode What Was Missing, that Marceline gave it to her when she was performing, and she took it off and threw it to her, the audience. And I guess that was the moment that they first fell for each other. But anyway, but then also, so the other major part of the special is, the new setting, the Glass Kingdom. And I mean, the special overall, like, I loved it. I would, on my scale of hate to love, I would give it a love, because just the characters were just so strong when it came to its two core characters, and just gave a lot of really terrific payoff for this relationship that we've been watching build between these two for the entire series. And then, but like with BMO, BMO was kind of the opposite, where it's like where the characters were really great. I liked Y5, I liked BMO. No, sorry, nope, I've got that mixed up. The characters were not super strong. BMO was good, but he was never a fan favorite when it comes to leading an episode. And then there was Y5, who she was a good character. She was all right, but she wasn't super memorable, and she worked well as kind of a character who could bounce off BMO and be more of the straight man, or as I said, straight woman in my review. But like the setting and the world building was just really terrific, because like this space station setting was so fascinating and so unlike anything we've seen before from the show. It was basically like just this place where like the last remnants of humanity had taken refuge, and it was a lot like something you'd see out of Star Wars or Star Trek or like Guardians of the Galaxy. It was just like this giant hub of different cultures and species, and it was just really cool, interesting, and unique. And then we have Obsidian, where the two core characters that lead the special are really, really great. But the setting, it's all right. I mean, visually it's beautiful, because again, the animation is it's fantastic. But when it comes to the setting, it was just kind of like just another kingdom, just another fantastical setting that we see out of the show. And it was just we've had the Candy Kingdom and all the other kingdoms. Now it's the Glass Kingdom, and the Glass Princess, she's fine. She's okay. And then there's Glass Boy, who's actually voiced by one of the main actresses from Steven Universe, which is funny enough because the title of the special is Obsidian, which is like the most powerful fusion from that show. And you could say, the idea of fusion ties back to Marceline and Bubblegum. So Glass Boy is, Glass Boy is okay for most of the special, but it kind of becomes more annoying as it goes on. Like there was there was this one moment that I just really, really, really hated, where like it's right after Marceline finally hears the message from her mother, and she breaks down and starts crying, and it's this incredibly heartbreaking, somber, beautiful moment. And then like she sees the silhouette and she's like, "Mom, is that you?" That ends up being Glass Boy. It's like, "It's me, Glass Boy!" And you hear this really goofy music, and like what were the writers thinking there? Like, I have no problem with there being humor in this special, but that was not a good time for a joke. It completely just kind of stepped all over like just the emotional rawness that was taking place there. But, overall, I would say that, that stuff really isn't that big a deal. For the most part, Glass Boy is alright. He's definitely not as interesting. He's not as enjoyable as Wi-Fi, but he's still an okay enough new character. But yeah, Obsidian is great, and I guess I should briefly mention, Finn shows up towards the end. It was also really great to see Simon again, and how he sings like the song from the episode I Remember You. That was really great. But also at the very end, like at the very end, Simon shows up and he's like, "Hey, I brought help," after everything has already been solved. And then some banana guards walk out of there. Jake's granddaughter we saw in that one episode with the skateboarding walks out of there, and then Finn walks out. And I feel really stupid about this, but like it took me a good 30 seconds to realize that was Finn, because I mean he was just in a towel, and I was like, "Wait, who is this? Is this some character that showed up in the past, in just this one past episode that I'm just not remembering?" Because his voice was also deeper. But of course, it was stupid because I should have known it was Finn the moment I saw that he only had one arm. But yeah, so he shows up, and he looks like he's aged a lot, which really calls into question just how much longer after the finale this special takes place. Because, Finn was 17 when the show ended, and he looks like he's at least, well into his 20s or even his 30s now. He's got a full beard, he's got like some scars. He has a tattoo of Jake, and Jake is noticeably not there. So that makes me wonder, has Jake passed away? I originally thought that Jake was maybe gonna die in the finale, but he didn't. And that kind of surprised me. So is it possible that Jake finally passed away sometime between the events of this and the special? Between the finale and the Obsidian special? Because that makes me wonder, because we know that the fourth and final Distant Land special is going to be about Finn and Jake, and apparently about them kind of reconnecting after having drifted apart for a long time. And in the promotional artwork for Distant Lands, we see both Finn and Jake, and Finn, he's wearing a different outfit, but he still looks like his regular self. He doesn't have a beard, he's got his hat. So this makes me think that maybe that special is going to take place sometime between the finale and Obsidian. And Obsidian takes place after the events of the special together again. But yeah, I mean, it was really shocking to see just how much Finn had aged, and but still, I wasn't really expecting him to show up here, but I'm glad he did. And this he wasn't the focus here, but it was still just a really great bone to throw fans to show us where he is, because he's got this tattoo of Jake on his chest, but Jake isn't there, so it makes you wonder, has Jake passed away at some point? So, but overall, it was just another really strong chapter in this Distant Land series. It shows that this was not like some kind of cash grab that because when it comes to shows ending, and because as we'll talk about for the next thing I'm going to talk about in this video, reboots and revivals and continuations are a dime a dozen nowadays. They're everywhere, and Adventure Time didn't even end that long ago. It's only been about 2 years. But this shows that these four specials, the writer, the whole original creative team is on board. They are taking time to craft 4 really good, interesting stories that build upon the world and serve as a good, in the case of BMO, a prologue, but in the case of these others, an epilogue, to show where these characters are, and it's basically like a victory lap, just one final farewell to all these characters that, I was watching Adventure Time from the very beginning. I wasn't even 10 years old when it premiered. I think I was in 3rd grade. So I have a lot of nostalgia for this show, and I'm glad that these Distant Lands series are doing it justice and living up to that very high standard of quality from the original show. And also, almost forgot to bring up Choose Goose he also showed up. He's great. And there was this really good joke. It's like you think he's like, oh good, she's none the wiser about my illegal moisturizer. Like you think that like he's gonna say something. We're gonna think that it makes you think that like we're gonna see that he's secretly a villain, but no, he's just selling illegal moisturizer. I don't know what makes moisturizer illegal, but I don't know. That was a pretty funny joke. So yeah, aside from Glass Boy being annoying at points, and also the other Glass characters, like the Glass Princess was fine. She was just kind of boring, and then there were the like her entourage that just keeps like just insulting her throughout the whole special. They were kind of forgettable. I'm pretty certain that one of them was voiced by Varric from Legend of Korra. So, I mean that was something. But yeah, overall, I really loved Obsidian. I think and it just goes to show just how far representation for LGBT characters in kid shows has come, because just 10 years ago, like the idea of two people of the same sex kissing, it was unthinkable. But now we have PB straight up refer to Marceline as her girlfriend here. They share a very long and passionate kiss, and yeah, it's just good to know that if heterosexual couples can be represented in media for younger audiences, there's no reason why same sex couples shouldn't. I don't want to hear that, oh, it's not appropriate and it's not, like, no. Like I always say, love is love, no matter the gender. And I just feel like between this and shows really on all three of the main networks, Disney Channel, they had the same sex couple in Good Luck Charlie. They had in DuckTales, one of the characters you see has two dads. In Nickelodeon, the Loud House, in the Loud House, Clyde has two dads. Of course, there's Korra and Asami, and Steven Universe is full of great queer representation, not necessarily just gays, all sorts of non-gender non-gender, non-hetero conforming, ways of love and identifying oneself. And okay, I don't mean to go on too much of a tangent there. I'm just happy to see that that these shows are breaking down the stigma of this kind of things being quote unquote inappropriate for little kids. But yeah, just Obsidian was fantastic, and it just makes me even more excited for the remaining two specials. And I'm excited for Together Again, which is the one about Finn and Jake. The next one is going to be about Peppermint Butler, who got reverted to a little baby towards the end of the show, and now he has to like relearn all this dark magic stuff. Because like there's this whole like there's like this recurring thing. There was this recurring thing in the show where Peppermint Butler is secretly like a master of the dark arts, and like he's best friends with death, and he's all about like just demonic stuff. And I don't know. It was really more of a joke than anything else. But now we'll get to finally dive into all of the weird demon stuff that PB Peppermint Butler is clearly so fascinated about. So anyway, moving on from Adventure Time, the other thing I'm gonna be talking about here is the Animaniacs reboot. So I should just say right off the bat that the original Animaniacs was a little before my time. I was born in the year 2000, so. So Animaniacs wasn't really a show I grew up with. I obviously know what it is. I have a very good idea of what it is and the style of humor it has. It was always kind of like an animated Saturday Night Live. It was just every episode was a series of sketches with different recurring characters. The main three being Yakko, Wacko, and Dot. So and I know like some of the more the most famous parts of the original. I know about Yakko's Countries of the World song and the fingerprints joke that people love to point to whenever they talk about how the show had a lot of really, really edgy humor. But and yeah, so this, and I mean, I can't really, even though I've seen bits and pieces of the original show and I have a general idea of its style, I can't really speak to I can't definitively say if this reboot lives up to the original, which is a matter of opinion anyway. But from what I can tell, this seems to be very, very, very faithful to what the original show was. I mean, I really enjoyed it. The earlier episodes, like, it took a little bit of it took maybe an episode or two or three to really kind of find its footing. Like some of the, like the first episode was kind of, it was all about it was all about, the meta jokes about, oh, another reboot, the Animaniacs are selling out, but according to Wacko, but we know we're selling out, and so it's cool. So you know, and they even say in the theme song, like, we did meta first, which is true. They're all about meta jokes and talking right to the audience. But there are some, there's a lot of jokes about, haha, humans are so reliant on phones now, and climate change and all. They dig it, they tear into all the stuff you'd expect. I mean, what's funny is that the show was, I mean, I guess this season was made in the year 2018, but they acknowledge saying, hey, this is airing in 2020, so we gotta predict what's gonna happen for the next 2 years, and they got a lot of it right. They predicted an economic crash. They predicted climate change getting worse. There was even a scene where a character was wearing a mask. I mean, maybe that was added in, sometime, later down the line. But if not, they were pretty on the ball there. And as the series goes on, it definitely becomes just more traditional Animaniacs style humor. I mean, Animaniacs has always been about social political satire and making fun of stuff. So that's there, but they kind of for the most. I mean, there are some recurring jokes, but for the most part, they got the whole self-aware reboot angle. The writers get that out of their systems from after the first episode. They just kind of, from that point on, focus more on just being funny, and it's definitely, like I talked about in my BNO review, how cartoons have definitely changed. They've gone from being just pure wackiness to just a lot of these shows now, like Adventure Time, like Gravity Falls, like Korra and Avatar. A lot of them have, they strive to be more than just being funny. They want to tell great stories and have great characters, and be something that and have more mature themes. But again, there's nothing wrong at all with a show just focusing purely on just being funny, and that's what this is. And it's very refreshing to see, because you don't see this style of cartoon nowadays that much. Like just the wacky, over the top humor. And just everything from the style of animation to like the musical score. It feels like something out of out of the heyday of shows like the Flintstones and Tom and Jerry and Looney Tunes, and that was great. And there were just there were so many different sketches. I think one of the highlights was probably the one where they're just completely trolling Tucker Carlson. That was pretty great. The one, like the mystery on the train, was great. And then there's and pretty much all the Pinky and the Brain segments were just those were the funniest. Dude. There were just so many great lines from Pinky in particular. And in the voice cast, they definitely learned from the backlash from the Powerpuff Girls revival, and they were like, okay, we gotta get the original voice actors back, and they all do a great job. They're all 20 plus years older, but they still sound super high energy. They can still sing really well. I love Rob Paulson. He's in so many different things, and he has just a great vocal range. And he's just and another one of the funniest sketches when most of these Animaniacs sketches in general pretty much just revolve around the Animaniacs annoying the living piss out of some other character. There was an episode where they were annoying Pennywise the clown, but there are a lot of other great ones. Like there's one where Dot gets a pimple and she sings a whole song about it, and then there's another one where she turns everything cute. And another thing about the reboot that makes it different from the original is the fact that the original had a lot of different characters. And here, it's pretty much it's just the three Animaniacs, and then it's Pinky and the Brain, and that's pretty much it. They give an explanation for why all the other characters are gone. Apparently, Chicken Boo hunted them all down and killed them, or I don't think he killed them, because we see them at the end of that sketch. But I am hoping that maybe for the second season they bring back some of those old characters, because I don't have an attachment to them because I didn't watch the original show. But I could imagine some fans were probably disappointed that they really trimmed down the cast. Now, there were two different sketches across the whole season where it was about new characters other than the Animaniacs or Pinky and the Brain. There was one which was about like this tiny alien getting taken in by a little girl, and he keeps trying to escape, but she keeps just playing with him like a doll. And I couldn't tell, like, were they just using like stock audio for the girl's voice because it sounded like old. It sounded like old footage of and she was just saying random things. I don't know. I mean, I didn't really think that bit was particularly good. Then there was another about this one was funny about a gnome that lives in people's mouths and says things that they were thinking, which is just really great. That one was funny, but I just find it strange how like there were only 2 sketches out of the whole season that featured different characters. But that wasn't really a problem because what's here is really great because the 3 Animaniacs they're the stars of the show, and their material is pretty much as strong as it's ever been. I mean, there was a whole segment about as Dot says, a thinly veiled allegory for gun control, but instead it's buns, it's bunnies. Everyone needs buns for protection from more buns, and then there's right in the middle of it there's they do a really well done anime fight sequence. They all become anime characters. And like Dot gets beaten because that she's just too busy posing. I mean, there's a lot of, and there's just that was really well done. I mean I can go on just listing all the different bits that I just thought were really funny, but I'd be here all day. But just to kind of sum it up, I just there was a lot of great social satire. And I mean, if you're gonna complain about the show getting it's too political, like you clearly never watched the original because they were always poking fun at real world stuff. Like I can imagine certain people might have gotten a little annoyed by the Donald Trump Cyclops that shows up in like one of the episodes. I just thought that was, I didn't think that was super funny. Not because you're not allowed to make fun of Trump, but just because just all the jokes like, oh, haha, he's orange and he talks about himself and he says he's so great. Like, the same kind of box of Trump jokes that we've been hearing since 2015. So I don't know. It was just not that Trump doesn't deserve to be ridiculed every second of every day for the rest of his miserable life. But, it doesn't mean that it's always going to be funny. And here, it was all right, but it wasn't, I didn't think that was super clever, but overall it just again, I am not inherently against the idea of bringing back something. A lot of people will be opposed to a revival or a sequel or a reboot or whatever just purely on principle, but there's not, I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with bringing back a property that people love and have nostalgia for, but just you got to do it right. And it doesn't even mean being exactly like the original. It just has to be good. Like, take the new DuckTales. Like, DuckTales, compared to the original, it's probably better because, it's a lot sharper. The characters are a lot more interesting because in the original DuckTales, pretty much the three triplets were basically just palette swaps of each other. They didn't have any personalities to speak of. And in the reboot, Huey, Dewey, and Louie all have very distinct personalities, and as well as Webby. And the show has a lot more depth and interesting stories. So that's probably a case where the reboot was done better. Compare that to Teen Titans Go. There's nothing inherently wrong with the idea of maybe taking doing a more lighthearted take on Teen Titans. And they at least got the voice cast back, but the show it's not funny, and it pretty much just actively goes out of its way to give the finger to anyone who actually likes the original. So that's not an example of a good one. There are definitely good and bad examples of these kind of things. And I think Animaniacs wasn't perfect, and maybe if I did watch the original run of the show, which I could, it's on Hulu alongside the reboot. Maybe if I watched it, I would realize that maybe the remake isn't quite as good. But, maybe that's just the writers gonna have to get their bearings again. And I know there was some controversy with the creator, how apparently he was left out of the process, and then he tweeted an article, he tweeted a negative review of the show. So I'm not sure, but all I can say is that as someone who just on its own merits, I thought it was really funny, really well animated, great song that I'm looking forward to the second season, which has already been confirmed. It is strange how Warner Brothers has their own streaming service now. They have HBO Max, and yet here we have Animaniacs, starring the Warner siblings. It's on Hulu. But I guess, I guess maybe the show was just kind of greenlit before HBO Max was really launched and greenlit itself. So I don't know. I would not be surprised if the show gets moved to HBO Max for its second season. Then the season premiere is all about, like, about they make jokes about how, oh, guess what, we're on HBO Max now. The streaming wars are, we all just it's just the next step of the companies all absorbing everything around them, and soon we'll only have three companies: Disney, Warner Brothers, and and Apple or Google or whatever. So yeah, I imagine that'll happen. But maybe in the meantime, I will watch the original run of the show while I wait for the second season. But all I can say is that I thought this was really great. Some sketches were better than others, and I do hope they maybe dip back into the pool of the original cast. But, I don't have that many complaints here. I just thought it was funny and just a really good, just refreshing throwback to that style of cartoon that we don't see that much nowadays. So that's it for this rambly casual impressions video. I'm not really editing this. I'm probably posting this the day I record it. My next video, which is all about where I compare the Detective Pikachu movie and the Sonic movie, that is coming. It's in the works. It will be finished within the next, at most a month from now. And I have some more like full reviews that I plan on doing. I plan on reviewing Soul when it comes out. I plan on reviewing Paper Mario: The Origami King. I beat that game, and that's definitely, the internet loves talking about Paper Mario. I'm probably gonna do a review for the third SpongeBob movie, and possibly Wonder Woman 1984. Definitely the Snyder Cut whenever it's available, and just other things. Like I mean, I had a whole list of reviews that I planned on doing, but then I realized, you know what, I'm not gonna have time for all these. There were so many different game shows and movies that I would love to review, but like I wouldn't get to it all, and I want to balance my reviews with my projects, my more unique videos that I really want to make. And I don't want this channel to be mostly just these kinds of rambly videos. I'll do them every now and then, but I just figured, since I promised at the end of my B-Mill review that I would be reviewing the other Adventure Time specials, I could at least do this. I'll probably do this for Wizard School or whatever it's called, and Together Again whenever they come out. But in the meantime, I don't know. I don't have a clever sign off like most channels do. So all I'll say is that have a pleasant holiday, and I will see you next time with my next video.